What's good, everybody?
You doing? Oh my
Yo,
God.
hey, dog.
I
Hey,
want you banned. You're
is
banned.
that first of all? Yeah, forget the intro. Was that Saratoga? If it wasn't Saratoga, it ain't legit,
Oh,
Gil.
no.
No.
It ain't
It's
legit, Gil.
it's all stocked in the fridge.
Why would you do that?
We'll do a post game edit.
You
Uh,
want Saratoga?
fresh. No. Yeah, it's always Saratoga. That's all I have. I mean,
You gotta do 10,000.
20. We're up to 20
Yeah,
now.
20. Oh my God, what's going on, everybody? It's Stephen Qualls II, aka Mr. Qualified. It's your boy, and we are back with another episode of the Wright Quality Podcast. Friends, co-hosts. Now that Miguel is done with his morning routine, please remind the people of who you are.
We gotta put like 6:30 on his timestamp.
Absolutely,
I'm Ashley Wright the first, the one and only.
ganger.
Newest bystander, side participant number 82 of the latest D-Frig episode where Brandon Jennings was playing. You'll see I'll be right in the front row. Not selected to play. They just didn't know. So next time they come through, I'll just make sure that I know the right people. I was a piece away from a piece away, but we'll be back.
So are you like ditching the night league for this new
Nope.
endeavor?
Scrimmage tonight. Start up the new league. I got to hit up Hal. We're actually missing scrimmage. It'll be at 8:30. I don't know if we'll make it. Sherwood runs at 8. We'll possibly see. But still got it. Still there. Latin League coming up soon again too.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
Yeah.
All they get the Latin League is still so crazy.
I just don't like the Latin League.
No, I did a 1-day tournament last time. It was a double elim. Straight off having like what happened? It was Ramadan and I was sick. It was bad. But we were hooping. But like I said, I digress. Enough about me. Let's talk about actual leaguers.
Actual league.
The clips will be up soon. And we'll be like, oh, should he try out? Should he? No. But
I'm crying. But Final Four is upon us. 4 teams have punched their tickets, and they're all the number 1 seeds. Wow, what a shocker. Nobody suspected this. But apparently, the basketball community, at least parts of it, seems to be in an uproar. There are some people that feel like there was no excitement with this tournament because all the number 1 seeds made it to the Final Four. Although all the number 1 seeds are pretty damn good at basketball this season. But thoughts on that debate and those comments about how not exciting the tournament was this year?
It's stupid. And obviously, you can tell who watches hoops and are like hoop heads versus who watches the tournament for entertainment. Not every year are you going to have a Cinderella, and that's okay. Sometimes we want to see actual ball. Who wants to see St. Peter's make it to the Elite Eight and lose by 90? Not me. I mean, I know there were a few blowouts, but I think this just makes for excellent competition. You cannot tell me that Cooper Flagg versus LJ Cryer is not going to be cinema. That's going to be a great game. Can't tell me the Auburn game isn't going to be really good. I'm excited. I don't care that they're all number 1 seeds. Put a 4 in front of the teams, whatever. I think it's going to make for good ball.
That's real. Gail, any additional comments?
I co-signed in full. I don't know. March Madness is my favorite part of college basketball, watching every year. It's always a mess. Just due to, the high stress, one and done type of situation, like that's going to add to how that ball's played. But I've been enjoying watching it. I thought that there was still good comp all the way through. It's not like every 1 seed had an easy road. There's been a couple of really close outs that they had to get there. And it's like, I don't know, like people that watch college basketball may have, more intel than I to say that this is the worst it ever was. But like Ashley said, it was good ball. I'm not really bothered. I mean, BYU has the biggest recruit next year. Like, if you want to blame NIL and transfer portal for that, I mean, hell, go ahead. But you know,
Yeah, I don't understand the comments. I think I understand why people enjoy the story of the Cinderella or why people want to root for the underdog. But I mean, good ball is good ball, right? And I don't think you can blame, like in this particular circumstance, these teams have been the best teams all year for the most part. Auburn has been top five all year. Duke has been top five, top three, even I think for the majority of the year. Florida's been top 10 all year. So like these aren't teams that you weren't expecting to make it here anyway, right? And you have in a lot of cases, the best talent left. Clayton Jr. for Florida probably will be going to the league. Cooper, as we talked about, all the talent. Duke, for that matter. Houston's been knocking on the door for the past couple of years. So them getting this Final Four and, of course, obviously hoping that they get to the championship will be interesting to see. But to say it's one thing to say you wish there were more Cinderella stories, right? But to say that the tournament wasn't exciting, I don't see how you get that. There were too many good tournament games between really good teams to say that the tournament wasn't exciting just because there aren't Cinderellas. So I don't know. Like you said, Ashley, it's probably people that just don't know ball, aren't really watching college hoops, which is something I noticed. As much as a lot of people love March Madness, there aren't a lot of people that are watching college basketball throughout the season. So their perspective on the tournament, you could call it skewed, I guess. But I mean, you'd have to watch the season to have more appreciation, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And we're in a hating culture.
Yeah.
We're in a hating
True.
Been a part of it. But yeah, just enjoy it. Just shut up and just watch it. Watch ball. Brewers been getting smacked up every single game. I'm just sitting there watching good ball from the other team. But it could be worse.
So do you all agree that that NIL and or the transfer portal is ruining college basketball from the standpoint of bigger programs or the bigger players being able to or more likely going to bigger programs, like because they're able to transfer, because there's more opportunities at these larger schools or more established programs versus having these talents at mid majors or schools that are going to be seated lower, which gives more room for the Cinderella stories to happen?
The only thing, and I sent this to you guys before, the only thing I feel like NIL is ruining is the ability for freshmen to get a true shot. Like if you're not ESPN top 100, you're more than likely going to have to go to a mid-major. The clip I'm referring to is when Rick Pitino said that he wasn't recruiting any freshmen. He's going straight to the transfer portal because he feels like the holes that he's missing with his seniors or people that are high value guys can't be filled with incoming freshmen. So that's the only thing I feel that it has ruined per se. In terms of the competition, like I said, I'm a ball fan. I feel like the competition this year in March Madness and throughout the entirety of the basketball season has been high. Like there were years where Duke went 32-0, where, Duke would be the number one seed for majority of the season. This season, it's fluctuated so many different times. Like we've seen Auburn as the number one, Houston as the number one, Duke. Like the competition, I feel like is more alive, and that's even in the NIL and transfer portal era. And I think, like Miguel said, with the number one recruit going to BYU, that's because of NIL. It is. That's because of the NIL opportunity. We wouldn't have seen a number one go to BYU in years past. So I don't think it's necessarily ruining anything. It does change the way recruits come in, and it does change the way that coaches have to approach recruiting, but I don't think it's ruined per se.
I agree with that. I also think the shifting of conferences is playing a role as well. Probably not as much as NIL or the transfer portal, but where these schools are falling, where these schools are falling in the conferences now is playing a role because you got to think. I think I've been paying attention to Arizona.
Yeah, you ate with that. You ate.
Now you got, I don't know if it's so much about certain schools being on bigger stages because I think Power Five is still Power Five at the end of the day. But depending on who you're playing now and depending on what your out of conference schedule is going to look like because of the roster you have, because of the talent you have coming in, I think that's a lot to consider as well. I think it's right on par with NIL and transfer portal in terms of impact on the landscape of college basketball.
Mhm.
That to me ruined it for me more than anything with college basketball. It's like the Big Ten has 18 teams.
Yeah.
The Big E, like the Big East that we knew is
Yeah.
not there anymore. Like that is where I think we've lost recipes in terms of rivalry games. Like contracts have won out, TV contracts have won out over everything. It's like, okay, we are doing the thing that oh God, I'm oof. Let me watch it. But there's some people in this world that look at the little things. They're like, these players getting paid is the problem. It's transfer, like things that are beneficial to the individual, but then things that benefit the masses, and the masses being the individuals that hold power that get the most money out of this, can change up conferences willy-nilly, and that's not seen as an iota of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not brought up not once. But these players getting paid, that's what's ruining the game, because now you have no. Like there's bigger powers at play here too. Maybe it's other things a part of the game that you lose, a certain dynamic that you get throughout the year because, you don't have these tourneys that should have these teams that have had historic like games against each other. Like you don't have that anymore. So to throw in another wrench.
Yeah, no, that's a big deal. I definitely think the powers that be are always going to try to have the most control and player empowerment, as much as it's talked about more these days, they still got to keep a lid on it a little bit. They don't want to give the players too much power. God forbid, these kids be in control of their own destiny and their own name, image, and likeness. My God, what a crime. What a crime.
Hey, Dabo, there's thoughts on this, but
for sure.
We'll let the people talk.
Yeah, no, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But to potentially what some may see as the most dangerous team left in the tournament, but definitely with the biggest star left in the tournament, Cooper Flagg, obviously. Do you all agree with that though? Is Duke the most dangerous team left in the tournament? Or is there another team more dangerous?
I think it's matchups at this point. I like every team that I've watched. Like Houston defensively has been solid. Auburn is a very tough team, like with Tahad and Broom. Like they have a good dynamic. Who was the last one seed? I'm tripping. Florida. Didn't really watch them as much as I should have this year, but they're here.
Yeah.
So
I feel like Florida, out of the four teams, and from what I've seen, I think Florida has experienced the most adversity up to this point. Even within the tournament, I feel like they've experienced the most adversity. Does that mean they're the most dangerous? No, but it may be a benefit to them having had to play from behind before, and I don't think any team has necessarily cakewalked, up to this point. But
that was a crazy comeback. Oh, that was a crazy comeback. Oh my
Texas
God.
Tech.
Down 9.
Yeah.
Down 9, 3 threes. Jeez.
I thought that game was over. No, when I saw the score, I'm like, I'm thinking the game was over.
With the paint, he said, I don't know about that one. Boom, 3.
Yeah.
I was like, like.
And I think it was like, what, 2 minutes left? A minute
Something
left?
like that.
I flipped it. I was like, let me go back. There's something that might brew here.
But again, like to the adversity piece, that usually is helpful for a team, especially once you get to this stage. I love the fact that there's an SEC matchup in the Final Four. I think that's dope for the SEC. But again, back to the conference point, I don't think anybody expected the SEC to be as competitive as a conference that it was this season. So again, now you're looking at the SEC, 14 teams, I think, that made the tournament.
Yes.
And then they had, I think, about 4 or 5 that made the Sweet 16, maybe even more,
A few rounds.
So, I mean, again, like just speaks to the talent that's there nationwide. But I don't know. I think Duke is the most well-rounded, but seeing them play against Houston defense is going to be extremely interesting. I think both matchups, obviously have their own narrative that will make it a great game, but we shall see. Before we get into Ashley's question about some Duke things specifically, are we picking winners? Are we picking winners right now?
Ultimately, I think it's going to be Florida and Duke.
I got to go with my bracket. I got to go with Duke.
Yeah.
My bracket does say Florida and Duke, and it's a toss-up. I have brackets with Duke winning, and I have a bracket with Florida winning. So one of my brackets going to be good either way. I think I do have Auburn making the championship in one of those brackets, though. But I don't have Auburn winning. So I think Duke wins it, though. I mean, if Cooper Flagg is going to be the difference maker, just from the standpoint of either being at his baseline or rising above the occasion, I think that's enough given the rest of what they have, to win a title. But I mean, I think Duke and Florida is going to be cinema. I think that's going to be amazing basketball if that's what we get. I'm sure either game, however it, plays out, I'm pretty sure either game would be good ball. But I mean, Florida Duke just has the making of probably one of the better games that we'll see, given the talent, given what it will mean for the players, XYZ. So yeah. But Ashley, to your question about this Duke greatness.
Yeah, so I saw something asking if Cooper Flagg was the #1 freshman in Duke history. So, from my perspective, a lot of people are just throwing Kyrie to the wayside. And you brought up the point, 11 games, but still those 11 games solidified him as the #1 overall pick in the NBA draft. I don't think Cooper Flagg playing his first 11 games would have been the #1 overall pick.
Maybe. I mean, now I'm not saying Cooper, so it depends on the parameters to me, right? Like, are we solely just talking skill of the player as a freshman at Duke?
That's how I interpreted the question, because there were no, details surrounding it. It just said, is Cooper Flagg the #1 freshman in Duke history?
In that case, no.
For me, For me, it's just talking about skill, pure skill.
Kyrie.
As a Hooper. Exactly. I think it's Kyrie.
I mean, there's probably a laundry list of people that you can maybe make an argument for. I think, you
top liver.
You said what? Oh my God.
Top liver.
I mean, you've got Zion, of course, JT.
Right. Well, is Zion
Grant Hill?
Okay, so Zion coming in, he's not more skilled, obviously, but when you talk about hype, talk about what he was at the time, could you argue that he was the greatest freshman over Kyrie?
He popped out of a shoe.
He did.
Did Kyrie pop?
I think hype, notability, as far as eagerness for people to see him play and tune into him, yeah. But that's also, you gotta take in consideration the era in which Zion came out.
Agreed. But then, Ashley, you brought up Grant Hill.
Yeah, Grant Hill.
I think that would be another case. You got to look at who they were in that era. Grant Hill in his era.
Yeah.
So
he was the prototype of
literally
LeBron. The modern day NBA, modern day NBA guards and that big guard fusion. That was Grant Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Check me if I'm wrong, but there'll be NBA players that can co-sign that statement.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think he kind of
where it could have been.
Yeah. And he kind of jump-started that Duke hate, people's hatred for Duke. Him, Christian Laettner, I think that's really when it started, obviously. So, I don't know. It's more freshmen to think about than Cooper Flagg. That feels like recency bias to me to say that he's the greatest freshman of all time.
So again, I think if any Duke player that stayed past their first year, I don't think they were trash, but their first year probably wasn't their best year, which wouldn't have them in the running for the list that we're talking about. But I think you could probably Cooper is top 5, and if somebody said he was top 3, I don't think I would really waste energy arguing.
Mm.
As far as being number 1, you'd have to make an argument against Kyrie. You'd have to make an argument against Tatum. You probably had to get into the weeds of stats and stuff like that. But I think Zion, all factors considered, might be where you really don't have an argument. Because if his stats are solid, which I'm assuming they are, but I'd have to look, given everything else, the notoriety, the anticipation of seeing him, the hype, I think that would make him more my answer than anybody else. But I mean, Cooper right there, he up there. He in the mix for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we've been talking about Duke way too much on this podcast the last week. This is ridiculous. Can't wait for March Madness to be over to stop talking about Duke for it's ridiculous. But no, to the madness in the NBA. Bring fighting back. Bring fighting back. No, we have. I don't think this is the first brawl, but this probably was one of the biggest brawls of the season. If I'm not
halfway Palace in the Palace. Tirade at the target. Tiff at the target.
Tirade at the target
hey,
is insanity.
Coming off the dome with that though is impressive. I will give you that. That's
great.
More.
Tirade at the target.
Tirade at the target is crazy.
There's more. I'll think of something.
But yeah, thoughts on this brawl, man? Bad boys are back, they said.
I love the intensity and the chip that they're bringing. I do. I really love how Detroit is approaching the game. This is what the NBA needs. It was soft. Remember, it's too soft. Nobody's physical anymore. They're bringing it back, and we cannot be mad because this is what we asked for.
Great heel, Isaiah Stewart.
Yes.
I don't want to say like bro. Like he's too he makes too much of an impact on the game outside of fighting to be known for strictly fighting. And like I need like
He's
granted that's a part of his skill. His skill is his chip, but it's like pipe down. Like he was gonna get kicked out before that when he was pointing at Rudy Gobert. Like, oh, chill out. I went back to watch the LeBron thing. My man pushed everybody else. He said, you're right, you got me. Ran again and then ran through the tunnel. Pushed Posey. Like he might be, if we had a let's divert the question for a second. NBA fight, who wins? I remember we talked. Did we bring this up? We need to circulate it again because Isaiah Stewart, I think he's got a chance. It took 12 people to stop him from chasing Braun.
So, okay, are you taking Isaiah Stewart or Draymond?
We talked about this, and I think we settled on Draymond. Are we fighting fair? Fighting fair or no?
No, I'm just saying, like, if you need that chip on your team, are you going with Draymond on your team, or are you going with Isaiah Stewart?
Well, Draymond, because he's still going to impact basketball more. The same chip.
Isaiah Stewart, check tape. He D's up, and he's,
Draymond, though. Like, respectfully. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
but now, if we're saying Draymond now and Isaiah Stewart now, like, I'm going to take Isaiah Stewart. But I need a psych eval on both.
Literally, you do.
I don't therapy.
Like, he's someone like you would love to play with him. You would love to play with him. You play one game against him, like, yeah, it's time to go home. It's incredible. Everybody had smoke. Let's break it down frame by frame. I think it started with the first initial. It was Dante saying F no times 3 to Isaiah Stewart's floater. When he put it up.
I didn't see that. No, I just literally saw the brawl.
Well, no, and then he went down. Fontecchio gave him a little one of these offensive foul. Right when Dante's about to stand up, Isaiah Stewart hits the ball out of his hand, like pushes him. And Dante and Rudy took exception. And then Isaiah Stewart pushed off Rudy and just did one of these. I'm like, that's when I knew. I was like, it's up. It is. This is not going to end well. Ron Holland comes down, gets a lay on Nas Reed, and he's Nas riding him all the way down, goes up the lay. He's like, that's a foul. He makes it. We go down the other way. Nas gets it on a DHO. Ron Holland swats down, and then based off what the breakdown was, I think Nas said, try it. So, like, try it. And then had that point, and then that was it was up. It was up. Isaiah before that, Isaiah Stewart was calling Rudy Gobert selective word.
Selective word. Why everybody be picking on Rudy, man?
He said he was. They said he was like their old center.
What does that mean?
I'll let you decipher what that may mean. Bars.
Miguel,
find a way.
Are we speaking?
I'm not even following. Yeah, the code is coding.
Their old center, who is on the Knicks, said that Rudy Gobert was that. Anyways,
Soft.
you're getting there. So
allegation, like
no, you're going too far now.
Hey, yo. If Miguel said you're going too far, then you take it.
Okay.
But yeah, all time great best scrum of the year. I think hockey gets to do it, so why not us? As long as there's no pregnant women, no babies right in the front row, go crazy. If I'm there and that happens in my section, I'm like, what's going on here? I'm putting the phone out and recording just to get any audio clips, see what's going on. I'm down for all mess, all tea, all times.
Miguel instigating the fight from the stands.
Insane.
I'm like, hey, Dante said something. I don't know who said that, but yeah, Pablo got kicked out. I done missed the whole coaches thing. I didn't even know the coaches that got into it. Why am I tripping on Detroit's coach's name? Why am I
JB?
Yeah.
JB. Big got tossed.
Did you say that? You just call him Big for short.
Big.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
No, they get down. Detroit, they've been about that. I think Isaiah Stewart to be a little less about that.
I don't know.
Let other people take that lead a little bit.
So I said, if we see Detroit and Indiana in the first round, that's gonna be cinema. And why somebody talking about we just gonna get the Malice in the Palace again? Probably
for 7 games.
7 games.
Hey,
I'm here for it. So y'all know that a lot of people like to say Bron ruined the league going to Miami. But I saw something on Twitter today that said nay, I say, it was LeBron that ruined the league. It was actually CJ McCollum. And this was in reference to the collective bargaining agreement that essentially introduced the second apron, which in an ideal world helps small market teams because it limits what the larger market teams can do because they're larger markets, right? But yeah, thoughts on that? Do y'all think that CBA that introduced the second apron ruined the league in some capacity?
How can it when it's a players' league? Players are forcing their way to wherever they want to go. So I don't think the apron means anything.
Facts. Agreed. I mean, yeah, you definitely are. The team is hurting more than the player. I think the impact on the team can have an impact on the player's legacy, given like whether they win or not. But it does affect the team more than the player. So I don't know if that is ruining the league, but I guess I could see why it angers some people.
It ruins it for small market teams where it's like you still will be required to foot a major part of the bill if you want to build a winning team. Like we were a PJ Tucker away from, people say that was the domino that started this process of like, we were going to go into the second apron I'm pretty sure, with PJ. And if we were re-signed him, would have cost like what, triple what we were needing to pay him.
I don't know about triple, but it probably would have put us over
20 mil to like 60 mil, so something like that. Something
also didn't have to pay Middleton, but that's neither here nor there.
Hey now,
just saying.
It was, yeah, you know how he feels.
we got a cut rate on him for 90 mil.
We did this. That was a cut rate. You're crazy. I'm not.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I just don't believe you are okay signing Chris Middleton to that, knowing what you know now. You cannot convince me that you're fine with that.
I'm fine with it. I'd be fine with it if we kept him all the way through the year and seen where this went. But
it was gonna go nowhere.
Where's Kyle Kuzma taking us? To the promised land, like
on the floor. He has minutes at least.
It's bad. He's not playing well. But I gotta continue the grift. But yeah, small market teams do not benefit from this in the long run. Players will still have their say in like where they go and what happens, but at the end of the day, yeah, it's going to be harder to build. Like, how does OKC retain all these guys? How does Houston retain all these guys? Like, they're going to have to dip into something somewhere, or they lose, and then they have to just find some other pieces in the draft.
Or, whoa, shocking, maybe. Okay, when I say this, I'm not trying to take away from NBA players making their money, but it's also the idea that like NBA players are already making a lot of money. And I think that players, if they wanted to stay in a winning situation, and if taking a friendlier deal would mean being in a winning situation, I think that is an option. Now, will a lot of players do that? You said what?
Like LeBron, there are guys that could do that. Like Bron did that in Miami. Like there are places where it's been done, but it's for the players that get whatever money already. Steph did it so they can get, was it KD? I'm pretty sure he took like a little bit of a pay cut as well, where it's like guys that get those $1 billion shoe deals, then he'd be like, yeah, I can take $20 million off my contract. If it means I get KD for 2 seasons. Like a guy like Alex Caruso in OKC, if he plays up to a contract, he might not be able to say that, hey, I'm going to take 15 mil less because I can maybe win a chip with OKC for a 4-year window,
Well, I mean, so then as a player, so if you're not that player, then, because I don't disagree with that, but if you're not that player, it's like if you are a role player, or if you're a productive player, let's just put you in the 6-man category, right? Now, if you talk about a player that's looking for their first payday, that's different, right? But if you've already gotten your money to some degree, so like Shea, for example, has his money, right? So whenever J-Dub contract come up, right, like that should be a priority. I would imagine Chet would be a priority, right? You already signed Hartenstein to 3 years. I think it was like 75, which I mean, for what he's providing you is worth it. I think Caruso's on a relatively friendly deal, depending on what was the contract, right? But like, also, I think if I'm OKC with the picks I have currently, if I'm not going in on creating a super team for a certain window, I'm going to trust the draft picks I have because I have so much of it. Why would I not expect it to turn out? And a lot of my picks aren't even mine. They're other people's picks that are still going to turn out to be high picks. So in the OKC example, I feel like they have more flexibility than most teams. But I think a perfect example of this scenario and how it affects those small market teams, Minnesota. And people in Minnesota feel like they had to give up Cat. But I'm with you, Miguel, where I feel like you're not in a position to give up Cat if you don't give up everything you gave up for Rudy. And granted, and re-signing Rudy at that to the extension. So like they ultimately chose Rudy over Cat. So don't blame the second apron when you didn't have to choose to go all in on Rudy, knowing you would have to make a decision on Cat like later. But I mean, that's the dilemma that you dealt with, I guess, with the bargaining agreement. But I don't think that's I hate to feel like that's what's ruining the league or that's having such a negative impact when those are decisions that teams are going to have to make at some point, regardless. Like you said, to build a contender, to build a winner. I mean, you're going to have to foot a bill if you want to build a contender, period. Like small market or big market. Like, larger markets might be able to do it a little bit more comfortably. You know what I'm saying? And more players want to come there. But I don't know. You splitting hairs when you get into if it's ruining something, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think the league is in a great spot. I don't know. Ratings or not, I think we're getting good ball come playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, agree. Playoffs for the most part are always going to be good ball, just because I don't know. It's kind of the same way as March Madness.
Old versus young right now. It's about to be old versus wine.
I also think that's why we're in a great era of the NBA, because I think this probably isn't our first rodeo of this, but like
this is that Kobe, KD, Ron, James Harden, that.
Because we've seen younger players like become stars and become top 10 players in the league when you think of the Lukas and the Shays and stuff like that. But there still hasn't been this official like passing of the older class to the newer class. You still have a Bron, a Steph, a KD, a Harden, a Russ. Like you still got some of these players that's been in the league 14, 15 years still playing at an extremely high level. So yeah, I think the young guys definitely are looking to make their mark. And dare I say, this seems like the year that is more than likely going to happen. Which brings us into the playoff seeding. In general, how important is seeding? I mean, we can talk about overall, but especially for the upcoming playoffs, how important is seeding?
Honestly, like, I don't think it is this year.
Really?
And I say this because obviously, like, okay, so those teams needing to get like a good push or a good seeding are already in prime position. Like the Warriors top 16. I think they're one of those teams that, would need to get a good push. You guys, Milwaukee, top 16. Like, I think the teams that it would matter for are already where they need to be. So it's like, okay, first round, you guys would get the Knicks. I think that's winnable. Like, it's not a big deal. First round, Golden State would get Denver. I think that's winnable.
It will be an interesting series for sure.
It's interesting, but it's not like Denver isn't Denver of old that we've seen. We've seen some inconsistencies in Denver this season. Yeah. And with the addition of Jimmy Butler, I think that makes the Warriors scarier. So it's like all these teams that are in the bottom, if you will, that needs to be in prime position already are. So I'm not keeping my eyes on any. I mean, Minnesota, they're not going to do what they did last season. I hate to say, but they're not. I mean, maybe Trae Young and the Hawks, Orlando, you want to keep an eye on them. Either way, you run up on Cleveland and Boston. How important is that? Pick your poison is what that seems like. So, I mean.
Yeah, I think that I agree that for the teams that it matters for, like the Bucks being a top 6 team is great, but the Bucks not having home court advantage in the playoffs and not playing the more favorable opponent.
Absolutely fine not having home court advantage. Our home crowd sucks. I'll say it a million times over. It sucks. It is so quiet. Like, I tell you, the only chant that we had that got us that chip was Bobby. If we did not have that Bobby chant, we lose. I was at the game where it all happened. If we do not have that chant, we end up losing the finals because there's no morale in that building. There's no cohesiveness, no sort of anything. I don't know. It's just missing some oomph that we missed from back in the day. But that's just my 2 cents on it. Being at home games, I'm like, they priced out all the good fans. No one really cares. But that's just me. That's just my take.
That's a real thing for sure.
Yeah.
I'd rather play in a place where it's loud. Giannis loves the Garden. Why not?
Yeah, as far as the East, I think seeding is more impactful in the West than in the East, right? Because in the East, like you said, like Cleveland and Boston are solidified. While I don't think it happens, it will be interesting to watch and see if Cleveland continues this skid and loses the number one seed by chance. Don't see it happening. But the fact that they've been on this skid as of late, interesting to see. But no, as yeah, the East doesn't really get interesting until the second round. And even then, I think most people still look at it as it's going to be Cleveland or Boston. And the only thing that's going to keep it interesting is if Cleveland has home court advantage. So the East is the East. The West, however, now
It's gonna be great.
Houston
Again.
looks like they will likely lock up this second seed. And I don't think Houston is a fluke, right? Like they've been on the up and up. Ime's doing great over there. But I do think whoever they end up playing in that 2-7 matchup, whether it be Minnesota or the Clippers, it's going to be a tough series for them. I don't think home court advantage is going to matter. And I think that Houston's offense is going to be what that's going to be their Achilles heel come playoffs time. Now, can they, as far as Houston, they can't dictate who they play. But if I'm in that play-in, that 7-8 game, I want that 7 seed. I mean, obviously, like I'd rather play Houston than play OKC. So I think seeding there in the play-in will matter. I think the bottom of the play-in is going to be irrelevant because it's Dallas, Sacramento, and Phoenix. And I don't even know if either of those teams are going to beat the loser of. I don't think either of those teams beats the loser of Minnesota and the Clippers. And even if they did manage to win that game, they definitely ain't beating OKC in those 7
You see another Dallas scandal trying to lose their play-in.
Right. But like you said, that 3-6 matchup will be interesting. I don't know if either team necessarily wants it first round, but I mean, because where Memphis is, I think that's where you get interesting. Like Houston and Memphis will be the easiest matchups of the first round, in my opinion. So does Memphis fall or do they stay in that 4-5 and the Lakers get a relatively, I mean, that's probably ideal for the Lakers to stay in the 4-5, get Memphis, beat them, and then have a shot at beating OKC.
Not if Memphis falls, because if Memphis falls, then you have Golden State in the first round. And that's not a guarantee that you get out of the first round.
Bad blood there.
So they're probably hoping that Golden State either doesn't play consistently, stays at 6, or that Memphis can hold strong and just get to the playoffs, not being on the skid to end the regular season. But again, because Memphis is the matchup that you would want, now where teams trying to position themselves, right? So
you better pray to God Memphis stays at 5.
Yeah, I don't think the Lakers want to. And I mean, it'll be interesting because the teams kind of match up a little bit better because since you don't have an AD, Golden State no longer has the dilemma of not having somebody that can guard AD, right? And like they have a big man that they play, they're more likely to play a small ball lineup the same way that the Lakers do. So it will probably be a better matchup if it came down to it. But yeah, I don't think either team would want that to be their first round matchup either. I'm pretty sure Golden State would love to avoid Denver or LA if they could.
I don't know. If I'm Golden State, I'm not scared.
Of either?
Of either one of them. I'm not. Luka included. I don't care if it's Luka. It could be Jokic. I don't care who they have. I'm not scared. The run they went on, I don't think it's
talk about Warriors in 5.
But yeah, we need Shannon Sharp. He does those illiterate, whatever those are called.
Yeah. But so how far you think the Warriors going?
As far as it takes them to OKC, possibly. I think that's the
You don't think they got
end
enough for OKC though?
of the line, Mystery Inc. I think that's where where that train stops.
It
I mean,
depends
but
on
I wouldn't be surprised if they got past. Not saying it's impossible, but I think that's where it ends. Because who do they have to guard Hardenstein? Who do they have to guard a Chet? Like,
That's it.
yeah.
I mean, you can't. I mean, maybe you can match Looney's minutes with Hardenstein, maybe, but
guards are just too big in OKC for them. I'm pretty sure, like
That too.
all the way across the board.
I mean, does Jimmy's role change defensively, more specifically, now being on the Warriors, where you can deploy him more defensively because he doesn't have to have the offensive role that he had in Miami, and now you have more defenders at your disposal if you're Golden State.
So Steph takes Lou Dort, Jimmy takes Shea,
Yeah,
Dre takes J Dub.
no, you got to put Dre on check. So you got to get J Dub to who starts Moody,
Kevon, Hardenstein.
Kaminga. I rather Kaminga on J Dub.
I think if they were playing OKC, I think Kerr should start Kaminga for the sake of matchups.
Yeah.
For the sake of matchups.
So it's doable. It's doable.
They got the personnel to make it work if Kerr's gonna make it.
Steph.
It's just a lot of help defense and communication.
Yeah, I mean, but I will say the Warriors have if you're in that 2-7-3-6, you gotta. That's the favorable path, right? Because if Golden State stays at 6, say they beat Denver, right? So now you're playing the winner of Houston and maybe Minnesota, or Houston and maybe the Clippers, right? Either three of those teams, you probably still feel really good about it. I feel really good about them against either of those teams, right? So you don't see OKC theoretically until the conference finals. And if you get there by that point, now you got Steph in the conference finals. You got Jimmy in another conference finals. And now it's like, is experience going to win again? Or is OKC ready to, take that next step, right? So very doable. Very doable. But yes, the West is completely wide open. I truly have no idea who comes out. And it's not to say that OKC can't be the favorite. I just think that it's going to come down to whether they make the leap or not. That is their only question. Can you all make the leap and win games on the biggest stage when it matters? Because all the other teams have going for them is experience. They aren't better rosters than OKC. So it's up to them. And I would say it's a little bit different in the East, because I would say Cleveland has the same argument, but I don't want to discredit Boston as the defending champs. So it's not so much that it's just experience, because I think Boston's roster is comparable to Cleveland's. So it's a little bit of a more difficult path. But I mean, I don't know. It still comes down to Cleveland proving that they're just ready for the big stage, and more specifically, their role players. We've talked about this before, but I'm pretty sure Donovan Mitchell will show up. Will Darius Garland be a great playoff performer? That will be the question. Will Evan Mobley be a great playoff performer? That will be the question. If they are, though, it's there for them to take. There for them to take. Just say it. But yeah, we shall see. 2 weeks out. At the time that this episode drops, will be more closer to a week out. And more than likely, most of the seeds will probably be, in the East. Most of the seeds will probably be locked. But yeah, that West is going to look real interesting going into the last week of the regular season. But yeah, it's closing time. Final thoughts. Any parting words for the people from y'all?
In a world full of Isaiah Stewart's, be a Draymond Green.
That's diabolical. That's crazy. What is that even? You know what?
Like, subscribe, follow. Got to get it to at least 10,000. We'll drop a 4-hour episode if we get 10,000 by end of the year.
I would
24-hour stream.
24-hour stream, all ASMR, live 5-on-5 at the end.
Hey, yo.
I'm not participating.
We do need to figure out how to host a tourney or something though, y'all. We need to get something together. We need to throw an event for the pod.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we gotta figure it out.
We'll figure something out. Like I said, I'll start my streaming. Tune in. I'll send you videos you can post on the channel if you want.
Latin League versus Night League.
That sounds crazy, but I get what you're going for. Yes, I'll have videos. Tourney coming soon. Latin League, April 22nd. And then Midnight League, it's here until I'm 30. So thank you, Bill Clinton.
Look, Monday, Friday, Ice Cream Sunday, Right Quality Podcast in 5.
Yeah.
Y'all next episode.
Good closing.